Hey everyone, the Game Piece here, and welcome back to Temtem UP. We got another battle here, and we got it against Uwukaze, so let's get right into it, everyone. He's gonna go ahead and ban my Gialis right off the bat here, knowing that Gialis is pretty much a big threat to anything that he wants to send out. Really, there's nothing that can withstand any sort of type coverage that Gialis is able to get at the moment. I go ahead and try to determine what his biggest threat is. He has a lot of water types that I really don't want to go up against on my team. Whiplup in particular with its tornado being able to threaten my Calibus, as well as Volcrane gets pretty threatened, Rise. Valash gets pretty threatened by Whiplup and Ukama as well, being able to double into it with something like a Sharp Brain and another attack, but I go ahead and decide to ban his Gialis, knowing that I don't want to take any sort of Haito Uchi or Crystal Bites for my Kinu, Valash, or Volcrane, and I go ahead and pick my Calibus, knowing that really anything that he decides to double pick for his first two picks here are going to have a hard time dealing with Calibus. Anything on his team isn't really super effective at dealing with it, except for, you know, his Volorend and Barnchi here, but there isn't really a whole lot that they're capable of doing to a Calibus on turn 1 here. So he goes ahead and tries to determine what his best options are here. I think Volorend was a pretty good first pick for him, knowing that he pretty much needs Volorend to be able to deal with Calibus, Volorend or Barnchi, which is exactly what he decides to go for here. So I think that was a pretty good pick on my opponent's part here. Taking a look at his lead here, though, I don't want to send in anything that's going to take any more effective wind damage. I want to send in something that's going to kind of threaten out my opponent. So trying to determine what I really want to bring along here. I know that I need a setup Temtem, so I go ahead and bring my Valash, thinking that it's pretty much capable of dealing with pretty much anything on my opponent's side of the field except for the Volcrane. So taking a look here, trying to determine what my best ban option here is. I do think that my best option is trying to get rid of one of these water Tems because of the Volcrane and the Rise that I have on my side of the field. Being able to hinder the damage that I'm going to take from any sort of these water types or even this wind type here is going to be pretty effective for me. So I go ahead and I decide to get rid of this Whiplup here. Don't want to take any sort of tornadoes into my Calibus. It's also going to threaten things like my Volcrane or Rise. And if I did want to bring my Pig Epic here for Bamboozle, Tsunami would threaten that as well. But he goes ahead and bans my Pig Epic, so I can't even really do anything with Bamboozle anyway, and goes ahead and picks Ukama. Knowing that that's going to threaten my Volcrane and Rise, I go ahead and pick my Kinu and Whiplup. Kinu is going to be able to provide some defensive support, and Whiplup's really just there to deal with the potential Volcrane pick, as well as sort of absorb the damage from Ukama or any sort of other options that he wants to bring. Whiplup is pretty much capable of dealing with any sort of threat that my opponent has on his field at the moment. Not going to take any sort of real super effective damage from anything on the field at the moment. So he goes ahead and finishes off his picks, and I go ahead and finish off with my Rise, and let's get right into it. Best of luck to my opponent here, Uwukaze. Goes ahead and sends out his Barnchi and Volorend for his first two on the lead, and I go ahead and send out my Calibus and my Valash. So let's get right into it. Calibus goes ahead and retreats from the battlefield. I go ahead and bring in my Kinu to try to get that defense boost on my Valash here. Knowing that he can't really do anything turn 1 to me, really his only options would be to go for potential Hypoxia into my Calibus, or go for Bamboozle, or Windblade, or Feather Gatling, or something like that. So I don't feel too threatened here, knowing that it can go for free Madness buff, which is exactly what I do. Second turn he goes for Turbo Choreography to try to speed up his Volorend. I try to just get some free damage off by going into a Crystal Spikes into the Volorend. Doing a little under half HP there, goes ahead and picks up the Toxic Plume to get some anaerobic buff as well as some toxic damage off. Knowing that he still can't really do anything to touch me, decide to just go for Revitalize to heal up some of the Madness buff damage that Valash got from the first turn. Goes ahead and decides to Bamboozle to protect his Volorend here, and decides to Noxious Bomb into my Kinu, but I do end up living this. With just a small amount of HP, he's going to get another sort of anaerobic buff there. Crystal Spikes is going to go off into the Bamboozle there, and unfortunately it's going to fail for both of these attacks here, but goes ahead and sets up another Bamboozle and ends up overexerting himself while he goes for another Toxic Plume on his Volorend to try to wear down my Valash and get rid of my Kinu there. I was a little bit surprised that he outsped my Kinu. I ended up going for a Sacrifice there to try to get the defense buff as well as proc the Scavenger trait on my Valash. However, he did outspeed with Toxic Plume, as you saw, getting the KO before I was able to do that. I end up bringing in my Rise to get the speed drop on the Valorant to slow it down because I don't want that +2 speed on it, and he decides to swap out into his Kinu to get that defense buff, and I go ahead and swap out into Whiplup, knowing that I don't really want to take any more damage on Valash, and I pretty much need it in order to secure the win for this battle. So he goes ahead and Noxious Bombs right into the Rise slot, and gets another sort of anaerobic boost there, and ends up going for the overexertion actually, and allowing me to get an Embers off onto the Valorant, and with that 8% burn damage off as well to lower its HP a bit. I go ahead and bring Whiplup back out, and bring in Valash, knowing that Valash is pretty much going to threaten really the entirety of this field here. Can't really do anything against me. Go ahead and go for a burn on the Kinu to try to lower its HP a little bit. Has the Ice Cube on there, so it doesn't do as much as I had hoped, but with Valash in here, it's going to be threatening that Kinu out, and he's going to decide to bring in his Ukama to try to threaten both my Valash and Rise, really. Even though Valash does have that +2 special defense on it. Go ahead and go for the Crystal Spikes into the Kinu slot. It was going to try to KO that Kinu there. Unfortunately, not enough to pick up the KO on Ukama. Ukama looks like it's built pretty bulky here. Go ahead and go for the Roar to lower that Valorant's attack, so it's not going to be really able to do much of anything. Assuming that Valorant anaerobics don't really have a whole lot of TV attack investment in it. So he goes ahead and goes for the Aquatic Whirlwind. I go ahead and swap into Whiplup, knowing that he might go into the Rise slot, but he really goes into the Valash slot for some reason, maybe predicting my switch and just trying to get off as much damage as possible. But I go in for the Crystal Dust to get the KO on Ukama, pick up that Scavenger, and take that Feather Gatling very, very well, thanks to that attack drop from Rise there. Goes ahead and brings in his Valash. I know that I can pretty much double into it pretty safely, and attempt to go for the KO here. Unfortunately, you're going to see me not be able to pick up the KO. It's just going to do just under KO range there, but luckily for me, my opponent does go for the Madness buff here, meaning that his Valash is going to get taken out by his own accord, and I'm going to be able to pick up another Scavenger proc on my Valash here. So you're really seeing the capabilities of Valash here when it's set up right. It has the defenses from Kinu as well as the Madness buff on top of it, being able to pick up KOs left and right with things like Crystal Spikes and Crystal Dust for the speed synergy with things like Whiplup here. Really just a intensely powerful combination. So he goes ahead and brings in his Kinu after the feint. Go ahead and just go for a Crystal Dust to pick up the KO. I wasn't entirely sure if that was going to be enough for the KO, so I decided to double into Kinu with a Tornado from my Whiplup here, but it did end up picking up the KO, allowing me to go for a Tornado into the Valorant here. Goes for a Feather Gatling, thanks to that attack drop again though from Rise earlier. Still not going to do hardly anything. And he goes ahead and brings in his Banshee for his last 2 Temtem on the field here. And if you're going to see here, the Valash is just going to pretty much be threatening anything that he has left on the field here. Thanks to that attack drop on Valorant, it's not going to be able to really touch anything that I bring in, allowing Valash to go for anything into the Banshee, pretty much breathe on it, and it will get knocked out here. So that was a very good match to my opponent there. I thought that things were going really well for me pretty much from the beginning when I was able to get that Kinu buff as well as the Madness buff off of my Valash. So good game to uwukaze there. Thank you so much for the match, man. I really appreciate the challenge, and I thought that it was really well played. Just that video just really showed off the power that Valash has in it. So really, if you guys are thinking of adding a Valash to your team, this is a video to push you over the edge into raising one up, because its Scavenger trait is really, really powerful. Being able to get that 20% heal off any sort of feint, whether it's your ally or your enemy, is extremely valuable, especially if you have those buffs set up on you already and you have things like Kinu to sacrifice, which is going to allow you to provide buffs as well as provide HP on the feint as well. Valash is definitely not to be underestimated, especially if you are going up against it in any sort of competitive play. Really though, any sort of Temtem can be set up like this that has a setup move. Things like Gialis with Heat Up, Zenareth with Madness buff itself is capable of doing something like this as well. So really it's something to be mindful of, and something I want people to be aware of is don't let these things set up on you, or you're going to have an extremely hard time dealing with them. But that does it for the video today. Hope you guys enjoyed the battle, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and be sure to subscribe for more Temtem content like this and more stuff in the future. But also let me know if you guys like the way that I've been editing these videos. I've been trying to decide if I want to do a live narration or go over and narrate after the fact, so any feedback is appreciated. But thank you guys again so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.